When you hear the term risk factors, some people think about high-risk individuals or individuals at risk, but risk can exist in the environment. There are some factors in communities and neighborhoods that increase the probability of health and behavior problems among young people. The first is availability of drugs or firearms. For example, I was in Tokyo recently and I saw vending machines selling beer on the street. That's availability. The easier it is for young people to get alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, the greater is the likelihood that they will use those substances. We have seen the consequences of unsecured firearms in the hands of children and young people. The second risk factor is community laws and norms favorable towards drug use and crime. You ask, how can laws be favorable towards crime or drug use? We know it's illegal for young people under 21 to have possession of alcohol. But if when the police are driving through the park, they see a bunch of kids with six-packs and they turn their head the other way and don't do anything about it, that's communicating a norm that law is not going to be enforced. The next risk factor is media portrayals of the problem behavior. We know that young people who play a lot of violent video games or are exposed to a lot of violence in media are more likely to resort with aggressive behavior when they're interacting with other young people. In addition, we know that children who are exposed to a lot of alcohol use or tobacco use in the media, in movies and other forms of media, are more likely to use those substances themselves. The fourth risk factor in the community domain is transitions or mobility. We know that in neighborhoods where people are moving in and out a lot, that there are higher rates of problem behaviors and crime. In addition, we know that if children's families move a lot while they're growing up, or if children change schools during the times that they're growing up, that contributes to risk for problem behaviors among those young people. The fifth community risk factor is extreme economic deprivation or poverty. Poverty increases risk for virtually every health and behavior problem. Poverty is a form of toxic stress that appears to have bad consequences for both kids' bodies and brains. Poverty makes everything more difficult for parents. The growing risk between rich and poor in this country is a matter of grave concern. I urge every Communities That Care board to consider the number of young people growing up in poverty in their community and what they want to do about it. We know that a public health nurse visiting low-income pregnant mom having her first baby during the pregnancy and infancy of that baby reduces the effects of poverty on that child. And we know that early, high-quality preschool education can also have a positive effect on children from poverty. Even in neighborhoods in poverty, it's possible to address the sixth risk factor, which is low neighborhood attachment and community disorganization. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Imagine two neighborhoods. In the first neighborhood, it's a poor neighborhood, you go there, there's lots of graffiti and litter on the streets, and you ask people, what do you think about living in this neighborhood? And they say, I don't feel safe here, I don't like the neighborhood, I don't know my neighbors, I keep my kids in the apartment because it's not a safe neighborhood. Go across town, it's another poor neighborhood, but there, if there's been graffiti, people have blocked it out. And you ask people, what's it like to live in this neighborhood? And they say, well, we play cards on Friday night on this neighborhood. And you say, well, why do you do that? And they say, to show the drug dealers that this is our neighborhood and our corner, not theirs. And also helps us get to know each other so that we can keep an eye on each other's kids. In that second neighborhood, you will find lower rates of children's problem behaviors, lower rates of crime and substance abuse than in the first disorganized neighborhood. We can do something about these community risk factors. We can change norms in our communities. We can make sure that the laws are enforced. We can help neighborhoods and communities organize. We can ensure that alcohol and tobacco and other drugs are not easily available to our young people. And we can do something about poverty. Communities That Care will help you identify those risk factors that are most widespread in your community and find effective policies and programs to address them.